Welcome back to AEPBN Spotlights, where we get to know the brothers that make up our growing business community. If you're just joining us, make sure to check out our earlier episodes with Lauren Nelson and Jeff Clyde, both packed with insights into the formation and growth of AEPBN and the brothers behind it. Today's guest is Lance Graulich, a serial entrepreneur who's helped hundreds of people find financial freedom through business ownership. He runs Ion Franchising, a consulting firm that matches aspiring entrepreneurs with the right franchise opportunities, and he knows this space inside and out. We'll talk about Lance's involvement with AEPBN, how he got into franchising, his vision for helping brothers build generational wealth, and why he believes everyone is just one good franchise away from changing their life. Let's get into it. Welcome, Lance. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Rafi, it is my pleasure to be here.
I want to hear your origin story with AEPi. How did you get involved? What made you join the fraternity? And let's start right from the beginning.
I was a soccer player. I thought I was going to work on Wall Street for Dad's company in New York. I grew up in Long Island, and I went to SUNY Oneonta, Omega Sigma chapter. So I think it was sophomore year. It was a long time ago, Rafi. I'm pretty sure it was sophomore year. I'm hanging out with a bunch of guys, and a couple of the guys came to me and said, we're all hanging out. We should start a fraternity. And I go, oh, really? And obviously we're all Jewish, so why not something like AEPi? Because there was no AEPi chapter at State University of New York at Oneonta. And I became a founding father of AEPi. And it was interesting because it was the classic melding of sort of nerds and athletes and you name it. It was an interesting combination, and it was really fantastic. And I really enjoyed the heck out of it all my years, down to the fact when I was senior year. And I remember, I was sergeant at arms and, just loved protecting our brothers when people were out at night getting a little crazy, and it was a blast. So the origin story is that founding father. Boy, there's a big story that other brothers might tell even better than me, but we ended up having to go to a neighboring chapter to get jumped in, so to speak. And we went to Penn State, and that was a funny story, but that's for another podcast, or in person at the summit in November would even be better.
What a great teaser. I remember you telling me this story a few years ago at the summit, and it was a good one. So one more reason for you guys to join us. Lance, tell me about how you have been involved in AEPi post graduation and how that has helped your business evolve. Were you always working with brothers from the time that you graduated, or is that something more recent? What's been your involvement as an alumni?
Good question. Like many of us, there's some separation, so to speak, when you graduate college. But Adam Renser, David Shapiro, Glenn Schur, Cliff Bernstein, absolutely 100%. In fact, Cliff sent me a message before I jumped on here. So Cliff and Adam and I and Glenn probably speak the most. So I was still connected to quite a few brothers in AEPi at Oneonta. In fact, it was one of them, it might have been Glenn, that sent me the invite to what I would call Lauren's business networking Facebook group that we're talking about right now, and I didn't have any inclination to do anything with AEPi corporate per se, the foundation. I didn't really know the foundation. I mean, I really liked Andy Borens. He was our guy that we would see all the time. I saw Andy at the summit last year, took a nice picture together, and I sent my regards from Andy to quite a few of the brothers like Adam Renser, David Shapiro were both presidents of our chapters, so knew Andy and others closely. But, it was really this networking group that got me sucked in, or back in, I should say, to AEPi. Sadly, quite a few of the brothers from Oneonta aren't active in the sense that they ever come to the summit. I'm the only one. But it turns out quite a few of them are active in the actual Facebook group and do business in the group. I myself do a lot of business in the group. I've owned franchises like Wingstop and Krispy Kreme Donuts. I created a now famous brand from scratch called Pink Box Donuts in Vegas. That's a big deal today. And I know business. My life is business. And instead of retiring and doing nothing, I watched a series on Netflix called Blue Zones, where it talked all about community and having a purpose. Turns out the AEPi Business Networking Group is a form of community that I absolutely love. And I love helping brothers get into business ownership. A franchise is the absolute best way. If somebody doesn't have their own original idea, it is the best way to get into business, but you have to know which one fits you. And that's what my expertise is in. And I continue to help brother after brother get into business ownership. And I'm loving it, loving it, loving it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows you as the franchise guy. Very generous with your time. I know that you've spoken to a number of brothers, and probably way more than you've done business with, and even your guidance in business ownership and business leadership, it goes more than just franchises. Franchise is great if you speak to somebody and you find a good fit for them, all the better. But you have been really generous with your time, just giving advice in general, and that's really appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of brothers that are stuck. They're in a job they don't like. They've been laid off multiple times. They're not making the money that they think they deserve, and certainly they don't write their own schedule. They're sucked into that W-2 world that is okay for some people, but not okay for many. And yes, I'm happy to have free conversations all day with no expectation of doing anything down the road. But if I can help, I love doing it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's chat for a minute more about AEPBNs. You've been to every summit, is that correct? All four?
No, I wasn't at the very first summit. I wasn't at the first summit. I was away. I mean, the summit is always during my birthday, and my wife likes to take me away on my birthday, out of the country or on a beach vacation somewhere in November. And in fact, I've adjusted my schedule so I can be at the summit. I think I've attended 3 or 4 summits so far.
So that if you missed one, it would be three, because this year will be the fifth.
Yeah, so
So
I
we've
missed
had
one.
four so
I
far.
missed one.
Yep.
There you go. I
Okay.
missed one.
Still a pretty good track record. So what made you want to get involved even more so than you already are? You've already been, you're highly involved on the Facebook group. I'm sure everybody knows your name. Everybody knows you're the franchise guy. What made you want to take it one step further and join the board?
Yeah, I've always naturally wanted to take a leadership role in everything I've done. You know, the franchises I owned, I was president of the franchise advisory councils. And so I like to belong and I like to improve. So Lauren and I became friendly. I was a noisy mouthpiece in the group in the early days, in a good way, I think. And I sort of kept asking and raising my hand, how can I help? How can I help? And then I think we all kind of realized that Lauren did a great job getting the group to where he got the group, but there is strength in numbers, and we all have different talents and different backgrounds. If we join forces, we can create something even much better. And I think that's the phase we're in right now, is that reimagination of what this group can be. A lot of people judge it as simply a business networking group. And the reality is it's as much social for me as it is business networking. I mean, Jeff Clyde and I love to talk. You and I love to talk. I've gone out to breakfast with you and your wife in Vegas with my wife. And so I think the
Yep.
social aspects are fantastic. Naturally, when you like people and respect people and have common backgrounds, you're going to do whatever you can together, refer business to each other and go out socially or vacation together, whatever it might be. So for me, it was a natural next step. If something's going to be worthwhile for me to participate in, it's certainly going to be worthwhile for me to take a leadership role in.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, this is not just a business network. There are a number of business networking groups out there that any of us could join, and this really stands out in a different way because of that community aspect. So first of all, there's that first layer, which is the Facebook group, where we're all interacting virtually. And there is still a baseline of trust there. We're all AEPi, we all have similar backgrounds. We all have mutual values. So there is that base level of trust getting into it. Then it steps up, right? So once you start actually meeting people, maybe you've gone to one of these networking dinners, maybe you've
Yes.
gotten something together. A lot of people now are trying to do this in their own backyards, are seeing everybody else. The success that David Ogman's had in Florida, that we've had here in LA, with these dinners that David Epstein has done in Philadelphia. So we have brothers coming out of the woodworks in every city now trying to get things going in their own backyards. And that is really where it steps up. And then the summit is the final level because you're spending a whole weekend with these guys and you really get to know them intimately, real personal conversations, not just business. You form friendship, you form community, and that's what sets us aside. I couldn't agree with you more. I love it. It's become a real community to me. It's become way more than business, and I really wish that for everybody. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing here. That's why I'm having all you guys come on here and really trying to get this message out is that as great as it is, it only gets better once these relationships can have a chance to develop in person.
Yeah, and we all have busy lives, and it's difficult. There are times where I want to maybe travel even more than we do, and we travel really often, my wife and I. But it's hard for me to fit everything in because I want to be with my wife. She retired early to join me, to help me and support me. But I'll tell you, right now, I'm working on my 2026 calendar with our franchise brokerage, where we have 600 brokers, including Mark Schauder, one of our brothers who I met in the group and had dinner with his wife in San Diego. He was looking for something extra to do with his commercial real estate biz, and he joined our brokerage. Mark attended our annual conference in Orlando recently. It's amazing. It's like this octopus, this business networking group. You never know how it's going to grab somebody and pull somebody in. But as we get older and I'm setting this 2026 calendar for myself, I do want to make sure we're all tied together as much as possible. And you nailed it. Those local regional dinners, that's what I intend to do. So as we're setting up our calendar for next year in Texas and Chicago on the franchise side, it has nothing to do with franchising. It just has to do with brotherhood. I'll probably start setting up a dinner and maybe working with someone, let's say if I'm in Texas or in Chicago or other areas, start setting up dinners there. And if somebody there isn't going to do it, then I'll do it. It's no big deal, but I do know how important it is because I've gotten calls from brothers in different cities, brothers I've never met, never seen at the summit. They've seen something I've posted or I've seen a response maybe that I put in order to be helpful to a brother. I try to help brothers all the time. To your point, I speak to a lot of brothers, and sometimes not a task I can really help with. And I try to find another brother to put them in touch with. Of course, that's kind of a goal of mine. A friend of mine used to always tell me, and I had a keychain, it said, "Givers gain." Sometimes people are asking for things that I don't have a resource for, and I attempt to get them a resource, but that's also what you have the group for. The group is there for you to post your requests. And it should be, look, even if you're just out of college, a lot of people just out of college are asking for a lot of things. Well, even those 21 or 22-year-olds have resources or family or friends that might be able to help a brother. And it's really this playing field, so to speak, where if you're getting a lot of help, you should look out for other brothers and figure out how you're going to help the next brother. Kind of that ladder effect, help somebody else up that rung of the ladder. But I think the group, we're doing a great job. I think there's a lot more that we can do. And in a lot of cases, I feel like maybe we've just begun. I know there's a lot of engagement beyond just the comments that other people are looking at. But I think really we're just getting started.
Yeah, and there's a real desire for it, right? Like the reason why Lauren put this board together and why we all are joining it so enthusiastically is because we all see not just the value in what exists, but the potential for what can exist in this network. And so many brothers are coming out, sending us messages, giving their advice, which is really helpful. We want to hear from our brothers how we can make this better. We are 8 guys, but the network is way, way larger, and we value all of your opinions just as much as we value our own. So, and we're genuinely curious people. The other thing I'll say is, to your point, we are the type of people, if you send a request in that group, there's a pretty likely chance that one of the board members, regardless of being a board member or not, are one of the people who's going to tag somebody in the comments on that post. Now, you ask, who are we tagging? How do I know? You ask for a financial advisor. Which financial advisor am I going to tag? You ask for an accountant. Which accountant am I going to tag? You ask for an attorney. Which attorney am I going to tag? I'm going to tag the ones that I've met in person and I've become friends with. And more likely than not, those are people who have attended the summit or have attended one of those local dinners that I've also been at. There are exceptions to the rule, obviously. Very active members, the more active you are, the more you're known. But That's a real way to make yourself stand out in this group, is to get out there and meet people in person. And
I'm
that's really where we're trying to go.
I'm smiling because the other day somebody asked for a business attorney, and Michael Reutman, who's a good friend of mine in Vegas, who's a great business attorney. In fact, I have an invoice I need to pay him for some stuff he did for me recently. A brother needed help with expansion of a business, and I jumped in as an investor. I said, "Well, split whatever Michael Reutman's agreement is as part of this deal." So I got Michael engaged to hash out an agreement between us, and there we go. But Michael, I don't know, he was 7 times or so he was mentioned, and me being the wise ass that I was, or I am, I had to put, well, Michael Reitman, because nobody mentioned him yet. And he appreciated being mentioned all of those times consistently. And look, at the end of the day, there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody to grow. It's just kind of this raising your hand type scenario where if you want to be more involved, reach out to one of the advisors in our group, which is Rafi and myself, 2 of us right here. Send me a Facebook message. My cell number, I frequently post in the group, 702-682-7173. Start with a text. It's always easier. Text me anytime.
Yeah, it's really generous of you to put that out there, Lance. So let's get a little bit more back into your personal business, right? Ion Franchising, you're a franchise consultant. You help match people with potential franchises. And
Yeah.
like most people, when I first heard the word franchise, the immediate thing that comes into my head: McDonald's, Burger King, fast food restaurants. But
The
it goes
expensive
way
stuff.
beyond that. Yes, and after having chatted with you a couple times when I was considering going down that route, opened my eyes to a whole new world. So give a little bit of more of the world of franchising at large and what you do in there and what sets you aside.
If you're Mark Newberger, who is the founder of Drop Stop and happened to be on Shark Tank, and in other words, you have your own original idea that needs to be born, by all means, go for it. Justin Bear, he and I talked before he ever got on Shark Tank, and he got on Shark Tank with Collars & Co. and seems to be absolutely crushing it. So, there are plenty of brothers and people in this world that have their own original idea that feel that needs to be born. The majority of the people do not. You are correct. There's a lot of franchise myths out there, and you don't have to be a millionaire to own a franchise. There's a lot of non-food franchises. There's thousands of them to buy, and I represent almost 1,000 these days. But I have certainly a hot 200 different brands, and most of the deals I do are $250,000 or less. And there's SBA loans, there's conventional loans, there's 401k rollovers known as a ROBS, a rollover business startup loan. There's all kinds of ways to leverage yourself and your assets and get into a business. There are even businesses where you don't necessarily have to be a full-time owner. You can start certain franchises, believe it or not, as a side hustle. All depends on your skills, your budget, your life experiences, your goals and expectations. I have an assessment on my website. I'm revamping all my websites as we speak to one amazing website. But, lancegraulich.com, there's an assessment there, and it helps you and I understand, based on your life goals, your experiences, your expectations, your mindset. There's a thing that gives me an indicator of somebody's comfort zone. If you're super comfortable, sometimes I'll get this indicator that says Rafi's comfort zone is large. Well, that means that I'm never getting Rafi off the couch. He's too comfortable. And that is part of mindset. And I like seeing people with a medium or small mindset, or comfortability, if you will, if that's a word. But there's a lot into this 15-minute assessment that helps us both. And then we have what's called a Fit Finder call, where I really dive in and really understand what your goals are and what your life has been and what are you scared of and what do you hate and what your risk tolerance is. So I can tell you, though, in my top franchises, my top 50 franchises, the success rate is 95%. 95%.
Oh, wow.
Whereas an independent business, the failure rate is well over 90% over 5 years. Aaron Weiner, Fred's brother, Aaron's been just such an amazing champion. Years ago, it feels like a long time ago, I put him and his wife, Boyana, who's amazing, into a franchise. And Jeff Weiner joined the same franchise in senior care. Other brothers, some brothers don't want me to publicly announce their names, but I have some really successful, off the top of my head, I have a brother in air conditioning that became the #1 franchisee of this air conditioning franchise, and he had zero experience. He did 2.5 million in the first year with an air conditioning franchise.
Amazing.
Aaron, another rock star. In fact, Aaron, after 4 months in the business, was crushing all the metrics and calls me and is like, I need a second territory already. And now he's mad. Aaron, I know you're not really mad, but it was funny as heck. He's like, Lance, I can't get the presidential award until I'm in business 2 years, and he's almost there. And then he'll win the presidential award. But look, there's some amazing people that I've worked with. Aaron refers more brothers and non-brothers to me than I think anybody. And I love that I get these testimonials, Rafi, and I showed my wife a couple of recent ones the other day, non-brothers, those, but people write these long testimonials about working with me because getting into a business and getting out of a W-2 job is life-changing. You have the
Yeah,
time.
especially these days without job security. There is no job security like being your own boss.
And Rafi, when it works right and you're with the brand that fits you best, you have this entire community around you that's not competitive with you. And you talk about a rising tide raising all ships. That's what franchising is when you get into the right brand. I mean, that air conditioning brand I mentioned, there's people that have exited for $100 million. There are people that have exited for only 60 million too. In a brand that you didn't necessarily
that
create.
all?
That's it. And the senior care brand that Aaron's in and Jeff's in, I mean, biggest franchisee did 27 million last year in senior home care on $150,000 initial investment. It's not, you can do $1 million, $1.5 million in revenue per territory in senior care. So, and I have a show, Franchise Road Trip. The YouTube channel is the same name, Franchise Road Trip, where I did visit a franchisee. I even put on an adult diaper and took one for the team to show you what they go through. I mean, look, at the end of the day, everybody has skills that are transferable. My favorite story is a buddy of mine that he was bald as a cue ball. And he didn't know how to cut hair, but he owned 19 Great Clips hair salon franchises and had a tremendous cash flow, and initially hated the idea. Thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. Why would this fit me? But it did. I have a local guy in Vegas, Paul. So if one of these brothers is listening, please let me know. I have to go back and ask Paul this. Paul came to me one day through a brother, but I don't have anywhere in my notes who that brother was. And Paul just bought a franchise. In fact, he got into the same senior care franchise as Jeff and Aaron. But there are other home care franchises I do deals with. It depends on availability. I got a hot 5. There's plenty of options. But
and quite the growing industry.
Absolutely. Every day, another 15,000 Americans turn 65. But home service brands are hot. I mentioned air conditioning. And you know what? Every one of these brands does not care if you know anything about air conditioning. They rather take a smart person, just like you, Rafi, or basically any brother that's listening. Someone that wants to work a little bit, has a little bit of grit, tenaciousness, doesn't mind putting in some work. Look, when somebody gets overweight, somehow you got overweight. You're 400 pounds. You got to put in the work to get skinny, and there's work. And it's the same thing when you get out of your W-2 to be your own boss. First thing is work. And then once you get on top of that mountain of cash flow, we hope, it's all smooth sailing. Then you buy another franchise.
One day, Lance. So you mentioned your Franchise Road Trip series on YouTube, and you also have a very successful podcast called Eye on Franchising, which I love, and I'm a regular listener too.
Podcast is killing it. And for those looking at on video right now, I was just in Orlando for our annual conference, and they surprised me. 600 brokers in our group, and I'm a trainer and leader in the group. I got the Podcast King Award presented to me. There was a recent survey said it was the #1 podcast for franchising out of 100. I couldn't believe it was #1. Well, that was awesome. The main YouTube channel is Eye on Franchising, EYE on Franchising. That's the main YouTube channel for the podcast. I'm going to merge all of them soon enough. My Friday series is dedicated to the founders of brands and top executive C-suite folks. The Wednesday series I call Franchise Envy, which is me talking to a successful, happy franchisee. In fact, I had my college roommate, not AEPi, on recently, and he owns a brand called Senior Care Authority where they do home care placement, and they don't have all the caregivers, but they're telling families where they should go and they make commissions. Guy probably makes $500,000 a year from his house doing that, but it was my old college roommate. Wow. And he's been at Senior Care Authority for like 7 years already. He's in Long Island, where I'm from. So franchise world is certainly a big community and a big family, just like a fraternity.
Yeah. Getting back to the fraternity, what are you looking for? Who are your best referrals? What are you looking to get out of this network and to give back to it?
I'm always looking to talk to anybody that's interested in business ownership, even if they've never considered a franchise. And in fact, I'm happy to explain to them why a franchise is right for them, depending on where they are in their life at this point. But I'm happy to talk to anybody that is stuck, let's say in a dead-end job. They're not sure they're ready for business ownership. I mean, I work with people that have as little as $25,000 cash on hand. That's it. There's financing for everybody that's got at least a 680, 690 credit score. If your credit's 750 or above, you can maybe get a conventional loan. I have plenty of lenders. What I do is turnkey. I help people wherever they are. And I sometimes, Rafi, talk to people that I know aren't quite ready. It doesn't matter to me. And by the way, in case it wasn't mentioned, I work for free. I get paid by the brands. So it's not like real estate where if you avoid me, you get a discount or something. It's built into the system. My services are free. Whether you go direct to the brand or not, you pay the same franchise fee to join. But look, I want to talk to all brothers. If you're a professional brother, you're, a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant. I'm looking to also create a system with my new website. I'm working with a huge agency in New York that's taking me to the next level. And basically with the new website, I want to be able to set up a referral system. And AEPi brothers will have the leg up. Almost every client will ask me, do you have a CPA that does business taxes and bookkeeping that you can help me with? I want to be able to refer them. As a matter of fact, like Aaron Pratt, I want to be able to send for bookkeeping services. It doesn't have to be the CPA. Save money if you go direct to a sharp bookkeeping company as opposed to the CPA. Even CPAs admit that they don't have to do the bookkeeping. They just have to know the bookkeeping is reliable and accurate. So I am looking for referral sources for anything in the way of business startup. If your specialty is LLC setup or whatever it might be, by all means. I mean, I refer Michael Reutman exclusively these days. Sorry, Michael. I mean, it's okay if there's one other person I refer. Got to keep it fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lance, any general business advice that you think is relevant? I know you talk to a lot of brothers, you talk to a lot of young brothers. So what's like a recurring theme that you hear, a trouble point that you can offer advice towards?
I definitely have a lot of advice in this area. The number one advice for brothers of any age, doesn't matter, young or old, live below your means, save your money. It's okay to invest in real estate. It's okay to invest in the stock market. Yes, David Ogman. David Ogman will share whatever he feels, and there's many other smart brothers out there for, investing advice, especially when it comes to stocks, bonds, crypto, etc. The bottom line is, if you're living below your means, you have the ability to have some cash built up and the ability to invest even further. A lot of brothers don't do that. They're buying fancy watches and cars and forgetting that if you hope to live a really long time, you need to be able to have some investments that pay for themselves. Bottom line with that is, live below your means. And if you feel like you're stuck, look in the mirror, because the only one that can get you unstuck is you. And the way you get unstuck from a terrible job or a terrible situation is to reach out to brothers in the Facebook group. And I'm a good first step to have a conversation about maybe what you should be doing with your life. The recruiting brothers, by all means, talk to all the recruiting brothers. David Epstein being, one of my favorites. He's one of our brothers on our advisory board. So there's a lot of resources to talk to people if you're stuck and you feel like you need a new beginning. But anybody can change at any age and at any time. And fortunately, I got myself in a position where I am here to help. And, every chance I get, I'm donating to David Ogman and Jordan's fund, because I like David. Haven't met Jordan in person yet, but I do plan on doing that in the very near future.
Yeah, David is another one of those brothers who is super generous with his time, especially given how busy he is and the challenges in his personal life.
I went to a Florida networking dinner. I made sure my calendar crossed over one of his events, and I met David. And we met before the event. We had one-on-one time, and then a couple of brothers slowly came in, and I got some of my Omega Sigma chapter, Adam Renser, Cliff Bernstein, and then I also got Stephen Heller, the licensing guru. He's a licensing attorney, big time, and I got him in our group. He's a brother, and I went to high school with him. He's actually a year older than me. Whatever I can do to try to make sure that we get involvement, and I would love to see David Ogden again in Vegas. I know it's a far trek for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we recognize that it is a far trek for a lot of the East Coast brothers, and we definitely plan on expanding to the East Coast. There are a lot of us who, just the fact that Lauren, who started this, is based on the West Coast. The conferences started in Vegas, and that's the way it was naturally built. But we absolutely have plans to expand more to the rest of the country. Don't worry, guys. We do not forget about you.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. Exactly what Rafi said, because I'll be building a calendar quicker than anybody for next year in a couple of months, and I'll lay it out in advance for 2026. And Rafi, you and I will work on that too.
Lance, I can't wait to continue building this with you, with Lauren, with Jeff, with all the other board members who we are yet to meet on the podcast. So glad you could join me today and share your knowledge. Lance, is there anything else that you want to add? Any message to the brothers before we close up here?
By all means, if anybody is stuck, anything going on that you want to share relating to business, personal or otherwise, reach out to a board member, reach out to a fellow brother, certainly reach out to me. And as I gave out my cell before, 702-682-7173. Shoot me a text. Happy to talk with anybody about anything, because, we want to live a long life, and it might as well be a happy and fun and prosperous life as a fraternity. Regardless of the age, I'm getting up there. I'm going to be 59 this year, but I still have the energy of a 20-year-old. At least I like to think so. But Rafi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And if anybody does reach out to you or to me, they're going to get a mouthful about hitting the gym anyway.
That's right. Damn it. Got to do it. I just did it before this podcast.
I'm headed out right afterward. Always a pleasure.
Jews who lift, Rafi. Jews who lift.
Absolutely. Lance, take care, my brother, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Rafi.
Thank you, Lance. You're always bringing big energy, serious business experience, and a clear mission to help brothers grow through smart franchise ownership. If you want to learn more about what Lance does, don't hesitate to reach out. He's one of the most generous guys in the network when it comes to sharing his time and advice. As always, be sure to subscribe to AEPBN Spotlights on YouTube or Spotify and share this episode with a brother. We hope to see you all at the AEPBN Summit, November 14th, 16th at the Park MGM in Las Vegas. Registration is open now at aepbn.com. I'm Rafi Caroline. Thank you for listening.